You've just finished your book and you're ready to hit the publish button in your KDP account. It's time to choose your 3 categories and you're stuck. With over 11,000 options, how are you supposed to know which ones will actually help your book get seen? Choose the right categories and your book can shoot to bestseller status, increasing its discoverability in the Amazon store and creating a flood of sales. But choose the wrong ones, you'll have no chance of becoming a bestseller and no chance of achieving the reach and the sales that bestseller status brings with it. Now in today's video, I'm going to guide you through how to choose the right categories, avoid the most common pitfalls, and share a powerful hack that's often overlooked, a strategy that can help you reverse engineer a bestseller and get those royalties rolling in. If you're new here, I'm Rachel Harrison's son, and I help people turn simple book ideas into passive income streams using the power of print on demand. Now, if you've been publishing on KDP for a couple of years or more, you'll know that there was an old way of doing categories where on the back end, when publishing your book, you would choose 2 BISAC categories for your book to be placed into. And BISAC categories are really just industry standard categories so that Amazon would know whereabouts to place your book. Now, if you were someone that was in the know, you would have known that you could use Amazon's help form and ask that your book be placed into up to 10 additional browse categories. And the browse categories were customer facing. Those are the ones that customers actually see in the Amazon store when they're looking at books. These days, when you publish your book, you can only choose 3 browse categories. You no longer have to contact support. You can do it right there in your dashboard when you're publishing your book. But there's only 3 of them, so we really have to make sure that we're making the best use of those 3 categories. Now, here are a few things that you might not know about Amazon categories. This is stuff that I learned from following Dave Chesson over at Kindlepreneur, and if you're not following him, you should. He's an absolute treasure trove of information for self-publishers. Now, firstly, did you know that 54% of all categories on Amazon are actually duplicate categories? And here's what that means. It means that if you are choosing 2 duplicate categories, you're effectively just choosing 1 category. That's because both of the different categories take you to the exact same page on Amazon. Now, using this strategically can actually be a good thing. Firstly, when it comes time to publish your book, KDP isn't actually going to allow you to choose 2 duplicate categories. If you've already chosen 1 category and then you go and choose a duplicate category, that duplicate category will be grayed out. You won't even be able to choose it. But the reason it can be a good strategy to make sure that one of your categories is a duplicate is because if you choose a duplicate category and your book starts doing well in that category, your book can then show up in all of the subcategories of the duplicate. On top of duplicate categories, there is another type of category that you really need to watch out for when you're publishing your book through Amazon KDP, and that is the ghost category. And surprisingly, 27% of the available categories that you can choose when publishing your book on KDP are ghost categories. And the reason they're called ghost categories is because they're categories that don't actually show up on Amazon. They're not real customer-facing categories. This means that a shopper is never going to be able to find that category, let alone browse through it. And it also means that if you're trying to reach bestseller status, you're not going to be able to do so if you place your book into one of these categories. In fact, you won't be able to rank for it at all. So what's the fix here? How can we make sure that we're avoiding the ghost categories while also making sure that we're placing our book into 3 categories where we actually have a reasonable chance of becoming a bestseller? So you can head over to Amazon and type into the search bar the type of book that you plan to publish. Then you're going to start clicking into each one of the results on that first page. Scroll down till you see the categories that they're ranking for. Then you can head over to Kindlepreneur's book sales calculator. You can enter in the basic information about the book that you're looking at, and that's going to tell you how many sales you're going to need to make in a day in order to beat that book's ranking in that particular category. So as an example, if I want to create a book that's going to compete with this totally awesome Mazes and Puzzles book, I'll scroll down to the bestsellers rank, and I can see that this book is ranking 1081 in the entire Kindle store, but I also see that it's number 1 in children's maze books and number 1 in children's travel game books, as well as being number 4 in children's puzzle books. I can then head over to the Kindlepreneur Amazon book sales calculator and enter in the information that I've just found. Not only can I now see that this book is generating approximately $2,349 a month, but I can also see that it's selling an estimated 68 copies a day. That means that my book would have to sell 69 copies in one day if I wanted to take over the #1 spot in the children's maze books category. Now, if you accidentally choose duplicate categories, it's not a problem because, as I mentioned before, when it comes time to enter these categories, Amazon isn't actually going to let you choose both of them. One of them is going to be grayed out. But if you want to take advantage of the strategy I mentioned a few minutes ago, where you choose one duplicate category so that your book may end up ranking in some of the subcategories of the duplicate strings, that's going to be really difficult the manual way, because you're simply not going to know which categories are duplicates unless you randomly stumble across one. That's where a paid tool like Publisher Rocket comes in really handy. When you're doing category research on Publisher Rocket, it's going to clearly show you which categories are duplicates and which categories are ghost categories. When I pull up a book's categories, I can see which categories the book is ranking for, and Publisher Rocket will let me know if the category is actually selectable when it comes time to publish my own book. Not only that, but Publisher Rocket will show how many sales I need to make in a day to get to #1 in that category, as well as the sales I need to make in a day in order to make the top 10. Now, if you want to check out Publisher Rocket for your own books, I've left an affiliate link down in the description below. Now, a few other tips here. You always want to be sure that you're choosing relevant categories. Don't try to game the system. For a long time, people would put their book into all sorts of completely unrelated categories just because they knew they'd only have to make a couple of sales to hit #1 in that category, thereby giving them bestseller status, and that would of course increase their book's discoverability and lead to more sales. This leads to a pretty terrible customer experience, and besides that, if Amazon sees you doing this, they're likely going to remove your book from those categories and potentially place you in a different 3 categories that you don't really have any interest in. Also, choose niche categories, not broad ones. The more broad the category, the more competitive it's going to be. The narrower you go, the less competitive they become. Now, another tip here is that Amazon is going to look at your keywords to help determine which categories your book belongs to. So if you really want to make sure you get into a specific category, it's a really good idea to choose a keyword that really relates to whatever that category is. If the categories that you've chosen seem to be completely unrelated to the keywords that you've chosen, Amazon's not likely to put you inside those categories. Okay, so let's move on and start talking about how you can reverse engineer a bestseller. Before we do, if you're getting value out of this video, I would love it if you gave it a like. Please subscribe and hit the bell so that you can be notified next time I put one of these videos out. And if you want to learn how you can start generating passive income with low and medium content books, I've left a link down below to my on-demand masterclass, Publish and Profit. Do check it out. All right, so as we've already mentioned, your bestsellers rank is determined by how many books you sell during a specific time frame in relation to all of the other books in the Amazon store. And by the way, this is updated multiple times a day. Now, what this means is if your book has the lowest bestseller ranking out of all of the books in your category, then you become the #1 bestseller in that category. So for example, if you choose a book category and the #1 selling book in that category has a bestsellers rank of 4,000, then your book would need to have a bestsellers rank of 3,999 in order to become the new #1 book in that category. And in order to find out exactly how many books you would need to sell in order to knock that book out and become that new #1 bestseller, you can use Kindlepreneur's book sales calculator, and I've linked to that down in the description below. And then when you're finalizing your 3 categories, you want to choose the categories that are the most relevant for your books, but also have the highest bestseller rank in the #1 spot. The higher their bestsellers rank is, the easier it's going to be for you to beat them. Now, as I showed you earlier, if you're using Publisher Rocket, you'll be able to see right there on that interface how many books you'll need to get into the #10 spot and how many books you'll need to sell in order to get into that #1 spot. But it doesn't stop there. You can actually begin your entire niche research process by looking at the categories. For most people, they will create their book and then choose their categories last. But you can actually reverse engineer this whole thing. Do your research by looking at categories. And when you find a low competition category where you would have a pretty good chance of success at becoming one, then you can create the book based on the research that you found in your category research. So let's run through a quick example using Publisher Rocket. Click on category search, and then you can just start checking out various categories. So let's go ahead and click on children's books. So from here, I'm gonna go to the sales to number 1 column, and I'm gonna click so that it's ordered from least to highest. So now this is showing me the lowest competition categories in order of their competitiveness. I can also see at a glance which categories I'm actually able to select when it comes time to publish my book on KDP, and it's also showing me ghost and duplicate categories as well. Now I can see that this first category here, children's books, activities, crafts and games, crafts and hobbies, paper crafts, it's a selectable category, and I only need 1 sale in a day in order to make it to the number 1 spot and become a bestseller. Now, I may not have even considered creating a book in this paper crafts niche before, but seeing this, now I'm thinking about it. Now, if you want to take this even a step further, you can start looking for second and third categories and try to create a book that fits all 3. So I'm seeing another selectable category here, holidays and celebrations, Chinese New Year. So maybe in this example, I could create a book where children can color and cut out paper lanterns. That would make both the Chinese New Year and the paper crafts categories relevant. And I could potentially, if I could sell at least 1 book a day in each of these categories, I could become the number 1 bestseller in 2 of these categories. And of course, if I wanted to, I could even choose a 3rd category here with the same thing in mind. And that is how you reverse engineer a bestseller. Now, if you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe. Next week, we'll be talking about how to spy on your competitors' keywords, so you're not going to want to miss that. And if you want to check out a low-content book brand that's making over $3,000 a day with just 3 books, check out this video next. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Take care.